Hello everyone, I am Dr. Palak Shah, a proud alumni of Manipal College of Dental Sciences, Manipal. Currently, I am pursuing my post-graduation from HGT Dental College, Gurgaon in the Department of Orthodontics and Dentofacial Orthopedics. I would like to thank the Dental Hub for giving me the opportunity to enlighten my views on the most discussed and the most wanted topic of today's scenario, that is the COVID-19 in dental practice. So let's get started. COVID-19 in dental practice. Introduction. A novel coronavirus outbreak was first documented in Wuhan, Hubei province, China in December 2019, now formally known as COVID-19. It has now been confirmed on 6 continents and in more than 100 countries. Now coming on to the history, first reported by Tyrrell and Bion in 1965, it was found that they could culture a virus named B814. They obtained a human embryonic culture from the tracheal organs of the respiratory tract of an infected adult, which was infected with common cold. The presence of an infectious agent was demonstrated by inoculating the medium from these cultures intranasally in human volunteers. Now, this work was done by Tyrrell and Bion in 1965, and he is David Arthur John Tyrrell. So, we see the 229E agent identified by Hammer and Proctor. Now, in late 1960, Tyrrell was leading a group of virologists working with the human strains and a number of animal viruses. These included various types of viruses like infectious bronchitis virus, mouse hepatitis virus, and transmissible gastroenteritis virus of swine. Now, all of these viruses demonstrated to have morphologically the same characteristics as when seen through the electron microscopy. Now, this new group of viruses was named coronavirus. Corona denoting the crown-like appearance of the surface projections, and was later officially accepted as a new genus of virus. Now we see the structure of COVID-19. Positive single sense stranded RNA. Now these are the RNA which we see. Genomes 30,000 nucleotides long. It says these are the nucleotides. These are 30,000 nucleotides long. For pleomorphic viruses, 80 to 160 nm diameter with 12 to 24 nm surface projections, spikes that cause the corona, Latin crown-like appearance. So these are the S proteins, or you can say spike-like projections, which gives it the name corona. Major protein, S protein, spike-like protein, then HE protein, RNA, and the N protein. These are together known as nucleocapsid, and the M proteins and the envelope protein. So this is the basic structure of the COVID-19. Now, what actually coronavirus or COVID-19 is? According to WHO, a mild to severe respiratory illness that is caused by a coronavirus is transmitted chiefly by contact with infectious materials such as respiratory droplets and characterized specifically by fever, cough, and shortness of breath, and may progress to pneumonia and respiratory failure. Now, coronaviruses are named for the crown-like spikes on their surface. There are 4 main subgroupings of coronaviruses known as alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. Human coronaviruses were first identified in the mid-1960s. The 7 coronaviruses that can infect people are, these are the 7 viruses: 229E, alpha coronavirus; NL63, alpha coronavirus again; OC43, beta coronavirus; HKU1, beta coronavirus. Other human coronaviruses, MERS-CoV, the beta coronavirus that causes Middle East Respiratory Syndrome or MERS; SARS-CoV, the beta coronavirus that causes severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS. The 7th one, SARS-CoV-2, this is the novel coronavirus that causes the coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19. Now, this chart basically explains the pathophysiology of the coronavirus. How does it actually affect us? So we see here the lungs. This is the lungs and the trachea. So trachea is divided into bronchus, and bronchus is further divided into bronchi and alveolus. Alveoli, these are the alveoli, and the single is known as alveolus. So here we see the macroscopic structure of this. This is a alveolus. Here we see surrounded by a blood capillary. In normal procedure, what happens? The alveolus is lined by type 1 and type 2 cell. Type 1 cell is very thin and it is mainly responsible for gaseous exchange, normal gaseous exchange. And type 2 cell, these secrete the surfactant. And this is very important to prevent the alveolus from collapsing. So normal gaseous exchange occurs in a way like we inhale the oxygen from the surroundings. So from alveolus, it is passed through the blood circulation. Here we see by the blue arrow. And when we exhale, it passes from the blood cells to the alveolus and from here to the our respiratory tract and is exhaled out. So this is in case of normal healthy individual, which this cycle happens. Now what happens when there is an infection with SARS-CoV-2? We have already seen the structure with these spikes. Now what happens? These spike proteins binds with the ACE2 receptors, which are present on the type 2 cells. Now what happens when they bind? They inject their RNA into the cell. Now RNA, what does it do? It hijacks the cells and asks them to replicate itself. So there are multiple copies of RNA created in the alveolus. So the host cell is destroyed in this process and the new coronavirus infect neighboring cells. So this is how what happens, and I have explained you here in an infected person. Now what happens when this infection is moderate? So in moderate cases, we see that whenever there's an infection, we see there's an inflammatory signals generated or inflammation occurs. So what are the inflammatory signals? Macrophages are recruited at that area. And what does macrophages do? These are the macrophages. They release cytokines, and these cytokines, they cause vasodilation of the blood vessels. Why does this occur? Now basically vasodilation occurs in order to provide a good blood flow to the injured area or to the affected area. So this is a normal inflammatory process which happens anytime whenever there is an injury. So this is the infection. So what happens is here occurs the inflammatory mediators are released and vasodilation of the blood vessels occurs. Now it causes more immune cells to come to the site of injury and exit the capillary. Now fluid accumulates here in the alveolus. Now as the fluid dilutes the surfactant, now this fluid starts diluting the surfactant, and because of this the gaseous exchange is triggered because now the alveolus starts collapsing. So when it collapses, the gaseous exchange will be triggered. No, so we see that when the cytokines are released, symptoms may start to show, that is dry cough and fever. So we are advised to stay at home during this time. And if the fluid accumulates, if this condition occurs, then a mild pneumonia develops and shortness of breath can occur. And all these stages, we are advised to stay at home. But if neutrophils are recruited at the site, to site of infection, and they start releasing reactive oxygen species, which are the free radicals, because free radicals are very dangerous and they start destroying these cells. If they start destroying the other cells, then hospitalization is must. Now in this process, type 1 and type 2 cells both, see in the severe cases, what happens? The protein rich fluid accumulates in the alveolus and has almost collapsed. So what happens that it destroys the both type 1 and type 2 cells, and there will be definitely difficulty in breathing. So what it leads to collapse of the alveolus, causing acute respiratory distress syndrome. At this time, intensive care unit might be required. Ventilators and life support may be required. And if inflammation becomes severe, the protein-rich fluid enter the bloodstreams. They enter the bloodstream and travel elsewhere in the body. So now elsewhere in the body, it means that it is reaching the different organs and can lead to different organ failure. So this is known as systemic inflammatory response syndrome. And all these conditions, complications of COVID-19 require intensive care support. SIRS may lead to septic shock and multi-organ failure, which can have fatal consequences. All these things can be provided and can be prevented with proper care. So, why does impaired oxygen gas exchange occurs? We see alveolar collapse due to loss of surfactant from type 2 cells. Less oxygen enters the bloodstream due to lack of type 1 cells. More fluid enters the alveolus. We have seen all this, the pathophysiology of coronavirus. Now, clinical manifestations of the disease can be grouped on the basis of severity. So, mild disease, non-pneumonia, and mild pneumonia. Severe disease, dyspnea, respiratory frequency of more than or equal to 30 per minute. Blood oxygen saturation less than or equal to 93%, and a lung infiltrates more than 50% within 24 to 48 hours. Critical disease, respiratory failure, septic shock, and or multi-organ dysfunction or failure. Now, the typical clinical symptoms: fever, cough, myalgia or fatigue, abnormal chest CT. The less common symptoms are sputum production, headaches, hemoptysis, diarrhea. This new infectious agent is more likely to affect older males to cause severe respiratory diseases. Severe symptoms are high fever of more than 100.4 degrees or higher, or pneumonia. Now, modes of spread, we can have direct or indirect spread. Indirect spread consists of airborne, contact spread, contaminated surface spread. So we'll be seeing direct spread can be there with blood, oral fluids, or other patient materials, contact of conjunctival, nasal or oral mucosa with droplets and aerosols containing microorganisms generated from an infected individual and propelled a short distance by coughing and talking without a mask. So basically, direct spread can occur with the aerosol generating procedure. In our case, like we dentists mostly do aerosol generating procedures. That's why we are advised not to do any of the aerosol generating procedure until or unless it is extremely important. Now, the possible transmission routes of COVID-19. Now, what happens is, in case of infected person, if the infected person is just sneezing in the environment, or whatever they are expiration or inhalation in proper normal procedure, what happens if they are in very close contact with the other person, they can have normal airborne viruses, maybe via airborne virus contact. Or so this is a susceptible person present. If they just put their hands near the nose or mouth, they can have this virus. Now, in case of we see here the infected person using a laptop or any of the electronic devices, if they speak in front of that, or if they inhale, exhale, or they sneeze. So basically, sneezing is the main thing which should be avoided. So which should be covered with the mask, or like corner of your elbow you have to use instead of just sneezing in the environment. So what happens, the droplets get deposited on the surface, and if it is used by another person, it gets transferred to their hands, and the other person putting their hands on their nose, again they become infected. So these are the various source or possible transmission routes to the of the novel coronavirus. Now, indirect contact in the dental office. So what happens is, the dentist performing any, like I explained before, dentist performing the aerosol generating procedure with the aeroter, droplets are created in the environment, and these individuals who all are there nearby are susceptible individuals. Now, dental professionals are in direct contact with this. So this is a direct contact. But if an infected person sits on the dental chair and infects the chair, and the dentist is again direct contact with the chair, so they can get infected. So this is an indirect contact of the virus to the dentist. Contaminated instruments or environmental surfaces. Infections could be present through any of these conditions involved in an infected individual in dental clinics and hospitals, especially during the outbreak of COVID-19. Now we'll see how long does the coronavirus live on various surfaces. Metal, 5 days, like doorknobs, jewelry, silverware. Wood, 4 days. Plastics 2 to 3 days, milk containers, detergent bottles, subways, etc. Stainless steel 2 to 3 days, cardboard 24 hours, copper 4 hours, aluminium 2 to 8 hours, glass up to 5 days, ceramics 5 days, paper few minutes to 5 days. Now, guidelines for general population: avoid close contact with people who are sick, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, stay home when you are sick, cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash, clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces using a regular household cleaning spray or wipe. Now, what happens when a patient comes for the dental appointment? Initial screening via tele-screening is very important. Initial patient evaluation, that is known as initial patient evaluation. Now, if the signs and symptoms of COVID-19 is present, then the standard contact and airborne precaution should be taken, and also proper screening and chest x-rays and whatever tests are required should be done, and the patient should be reported to local state healthcare agency. Now, what type of treatment is required by the patient? We have to evaluate that. Elective care, like very nominal case or very nominal problem, we can defer the treatment for 2 weeks and we can just closely follow up the patient via telephone or video conferencing. But if the patient requires urgent care in case of acute pain or swelling, we can always give antibiotics and analgesics to release the pain and to make the patient at ease, and closely follow up the situation using telephone or video conferencing. In case of emergency care, like if the patient is urgent need of the dental treatment, then the treatment is performed in negative pressure room, airborne infection isolation rooms. And if there is no history and no travel history or no symptoms, then we can perform the normal dental procedures. Obviously, these dental procedures will not include airborne procedures at this time. Now, these are the basic 7 steps to hand hygiene procedure. Rub hands palm to palm. Just focus on the diagram carefully. Then we have to rub one hand at the back of the other. Interdigitation of fingers, the third step. Then interlocking of the fingers with the other. Thumb rubbing. Then the finger rubbing or the nail rubbing on the other hand. And then the wrist rubbing. So these are the 7 procedures and the 7 methods which you should follow while hand washing. Now, respiratory and cough hygiene. Patient and staff visitors should be encouraged to minimize potential COVID-19 transmission through good respiratory hygiene measures. You should not sneeze like this. Always carry a mask, or you can use your elbow if you want to sneeze, or a tissue. And the tissue or mask tissue should be preferably discarded after use. Now, dentistry work tasks associated with exposure risk levels. What all the what all are associated with lower risk? So, performing administrative duties in non-public areas of dentistry facilities away from other staff members. Basically, OSHA interim guidance for workers and employees of workers at lower risk of exposure may be appropriate. In medium, providing urgent or emergency dental care, which does not involve any aerosol generating procedures to well patients. That is to members of the general public who are not known or suspected COVID-19 patients working at busy staff work areas within a dentistry facility. Basically, this medium risk involves working in normal dental setup, but not involving any aerosol generating procedures and treating to the patients who are not known or suspected to be of COVID-19. And preferably, it is like working at busy staff areas, and these are basically at the, we know that urban areas are medium, normal clinic are, these are medium risk levels, and lower caution we see at the rural areas which does not have proper dental facility. We are just evaluating an initial examination of the patient. Now, what is at high risk? Entering a known or suspected COVID-19 patient's room or care area, providing emergency dental care not involving aerosol generating procedures to a known or suspected COVID-19 patient. performing aerosol generating procedures on well patients. Basically dealing with COVID-19 patients, and we give them normal procedures, not aerosol generating procedures, but performing aerosol generating procedures on well patients. These are very high risk conditions, and very high risk is definitely performing aerosol generating procedures on COVID positive 19 positive cases, and collecting or handling samples, specimens from known patients, COVID-19 positive patients. Protocols: screen patients entering for temperature, disinfect their hands, provide tissue for use in coughing or sneezing, disposable bags at reception for tissue disposal, mark distances in reception with red tape, arrange sitting with 6 feet distance, covering frequently touched objects like phones, mouse, keyboards, pens, etc. with disposable covers or clinch films so that they can be disinfected. Questionnaire for patients regarding exposure and travel history before entering operatory. Any positive replies in the questionnaire shall defer his dental treatment. Reduce wait time in dental reception, have a smaller number of patients in reception, and consider patients waiting in their cars till dental chair is made available for OPD based practices. Use disinfection protocols for reception area like twice a day floor mopping with warm water detergent and 1% sodium hypochlorite. Broom sweeping should be avoided. High touch surfaces like doorknobs, reception chairs, furniture, etc. should be disinfected after every patient with a disinfectant spray or detergent. Remove all reading material from reception as it is hard to disinfect them. Schedule appointments, leaving sufficient time for staff for disinfection of equipment and surfaces. Patients should be requested to have a mask or nose protection worn in the reception till they are called in the operatory. The reception staff should be wearing head caps, eye protection glasses, masks, and full-sleeved aprons or scrubs and gloves. They should perform hand hygiene after every patient in the reception area. Operatory protocols. Receive patient in the operatory. Ask to disinfect his hands and face by thoroughly washing with soap and water. Ask patient to gargle with 1% hydrogen peroxide or 0.2% betadine solution to reduce viral load in the mouth or saliva. The commonly used 0.12% chlorhexidine mouth rinse is not that effective to kill COVID-19 coronavirus. Since 2019 novel coronavirus is vulnerable to oxidation, pre-procedural mouth rinse with 1% hydrogen peroxide or 0.2% povidone iodine is highly recommended. The dentist and the assisting staff should perform thorough hand hygiene and be well protected with PPEs even before examining the patient. Now the PPs are classified into 3 categories. This is basically for primary protection is basically for staff in the clinic, which includes disposable working cap, surgical mask, latex nitrile gloves, while full sleeves, coat and protection goggles or face shield. Now, secondary protection is advanced protection for dental professionals. This include all primary protection plus face shield over eye wear and autoclaved isolation clothing or surgical clothing outside. Tertiary protection in case of contact with COVID-19 positive patient or suspected positive for emergency dental treatment. So this is the diagram showing all the equipments to be worn. Eye protection, full face visor or goggles, gown, hands washed thoroughly before putting on gloves, pulled over gown sleeve. Healthcare staff likely to come into contact with coronavirus patients but not carrying out invasive procedures will be given gloves, aprons, surgical mask, and possibly goggles. Now, sequence of putting on the personal protective equipments. That is, first the gown is put, fully cover torso from neck to knees, arms to end of wrist and wrap around the back. Fasten in back of neck and waist. Mask or respirator is again important. Secure ties or elastic bands at middle of head and neck. Fit flexible band to nose bridge. Fit snug to face and below chin. Fit check respirator. Goggles or face shield. Place over face and eyes and adjust to fit. And at last, gloves. Extend to cover wrist of isolation gown. So this is the full, I will say that sequence of putting the PP. And here we see a personal putting PP. Here N95 or high respirator mask is used, and here the normal face mask. Now, the National Task Force for COVID-19 recommends the use of hydroxychloroquine for prophylaxis of SARS-CoV-2 infection for selected individuals as follows. So we see that hydroxychloroquine can be given to not all people, but there are eligible individuals in whom we have to give this. So who are they? First, asymptomatic healthcare workers in the care of suspected or confirmed cases of COVID-19. Asymptomatic household contacts of laboratory confirmed cases. Basically, all the healthcare workers, asymptomatic healthcare workers who are involved in the care of COVID-19 patients, and asymptomatic household people who are in the contact of confirmed case. Now, dosage. Asymptomatic healthcare workers which are involved in the treatment of the case COVID-19, 400 milligram twice daily on day 1. Okay, then followed by 400 milligram once weekly for next 7 weeks to be taken with meals. Now, asymptomatic household contacts of laboratory confirmed cases, if you are in contact with a positive case, or if you are taking care of someone in your house who is positive, then basically 400 milligram twice daily on day 1, followed by 400 milligram once weekly for next 3 weeks to be taken with meals. Basically, none of the household people are taking care of COVID-19 patients, definitely, but it is like nearly impossible to not come in contact with any of their things. So it is better to follow the regimen. Now, at conclusion, I will say that these times are really tough time for both the patients and for us as a dentist. So we have to put our full efforts, and we should be prepared towards our self-education, towards educating patients, and towards this society, for so that we can provide a safe and protected treatment. And also, patients should cooperate with us in doing this. With increasing number of cases, it is highly essential to know the myths and facts about the disease, not only our own, but for the protection of others around us as well. So stay home, stay safe. Thank you. All the questions can be seen in the comment section below. Thank you.